Welcome back to another episode of Get the Guac podcast. Today we are pulling back the curtain on what could be a somewhat taboo topic, and that is funeral planning. Joining us is Howard McComas IV. He is the funeral director, a business owner, lifelong Harford County resident, and community leader. McComas Family Funeral Homes has over 200 years of experience helping Harford County residents plan services from Abingdon, Bel Air, and Jarrettsville. And here's why it's important. There's only two certainties in life, death and taxes. So today we're going to talk about the first one, but the point I'd like to make is that either you will plan your funeral or someone else will. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Well, Howard, thank you for coming in and joining the podcast. Appreciate your time and the experiences and questions that we'll go through today.
Joe, appreciate the offer. It's always good to connect with somebody local, trying to make it happen.
So obviously today's podcast episode will be a very uplifting topic that we cover. You know, the old mantra, there's only two things in life that are certain, taxes and death. So we're going to cover the second one of those. But as a funeral home director, we'll go back a little bit. So McComas has been around for a long time, as I mentioned in the intro. You know, how is that carrying on the family legacy and being a multi-generational family business in this type of business?
Well, it's interesting because in 2008, we celebrated our bicentennial, and that was a big deal, obviously. And
yeah.
I realized that I didn't really even know the people that came before me too well.
Right.
So we reached out to the Historical Society here in Harford County, and Henry Peden. And I said, Henry, help. I said, I need some research. So
right.
He went and he got us our direct lineage all the way back to the Revolutionary War when things got started. So that was eye-opening to me.
Yeah.
A lot of folks to come before our generation, we're the seventh.
Right.
But just real quickly, the word is, we used to make furniture back in Abingdon, right there at the intersection of 7 and Abingdon Road.
Okay.
We had the biggest buckboard wagon in town.
Okay.
Folks in the city, when they died, there's a prestigious thing to come out to the county to be buried. So we would be the ones to go down to the train station and bring them up and start having services that way.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's how I understand, as best you can.
Right. I'm sure there's
200
a little
some years ago, how things got started. But,
oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Now, growing up in the family business, was it a given that you would join it, or was there an option of doing something else?
I was always offered so much leeway to get out and figure things out.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, I do remember the day that my dad said, you do whatever you want to do, just remember you have a Roman numeral at the end of your name.
Yeah.
So, maybe implication
right.
a little bit.
A little bit of pressure without mentioning it or hitting you over the head with it.
But I did. I went away, got my degree in North Carolina, and was able to just open my brain. I came back one day and standing in the foyer, had a visitation going on, standing next to my dad, and he knew everybody coming in the front door. Mm-hmm. And something went off in my head after being away and coming back. It's relationships. And
yes.
That's really what makes everything happen, whether you realize it or not.
100%.
And I realized that's where I got mine, and
right.
So to speak.
Yeah.
And I made the decision at that point. Funeral, fine. Yes, we do all the funeral part, but it's relationships and what we've established over the years.
Right.
Where I was getting my value.
Relationships. I'm sure people come to you when they are the most vulnerable and they need kind of a beacon or a safe haven where, they can go through this probably for most difficult experience. And it's not something I think people spend a lot of time thinking through what the plans are going to look like. Sure. And they're going through it for the first time. Although after watching this, hopefully, they think ahead, but
right.
Maybe I'm jumping the gun there. Relationships is really what people gravitate towards, and that trust and being that local community, offering the services that you do is huge.
Somebody loses somebody, they die. they give us a call. And if we don't have a previous relationship with that family, you have strangers walking in the front door and they're about to meet with people they haven't met before.
Right.
The most vulnerable time of their life, for the most part. And you're establishing an intimate relationship that is going to last maybe 2, 3, 4 days.
Right.
And we extend it after that, but you're getting a lot done with somebody that you never met before in that short time. And that just, I never lose sight of that. And our team, we have eight directors. Of them, 6 are women. Mm-hmm. So I'm in a minority, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And they are average age about 33 years old. So if you think about the younger crew, being able to establish a relationship with families that quickly to help them guide them through, I'm pushed back in my seat every day, when I think about it that way.
And is that a business where a lot of businesses are getting older? In financial planning, I think the average age of an advisor is 56 this year. Last year it was 55.
Okay.
Younger talent isn't coming into the business. Are you seeing that similar trend in your line of work?
I'm seeing a resurgence in our business.
Really?
And I said women, and right now, about 80% of folks going into school to become a funeral director are women.
Yeah.
So it's just that nurturing nature that I think are pulling folks.
The emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Yeah. And our folks, they get it. I always say, if you have it in your heart and your head, we'll teach funeral all day.
Right.
And right now we just have a group that does that. So
teach funeral all day is an interesting phrase. When you went to North Carolina, did you do a specific track in college that prepared you for this, or what was your educational background?
Business administration.
Yeah.
So that was the basis of it.
Yeah.
I didn't get in, growing up around the funeral home as a little kid, cutting grass and vacuuming and chairs, and then just kind of being around it is one thing, but I never really got funeral sense until after school, really.
Right.
And then started doing, the visitation services and the people thing.
Is there such a thing as undertaker school?
Absolutely.
Really?
Mortuary Science College.
Okay.
So the local one here is right here in Catonsville.
Okay.
It's a 2-year degree, associate's degree in mortuary science.
Right.
So, and then you serve an apprenticeship at the same time.
Interesting.
Typically. So,
I had no idea.
Yeah, most people don't.
It's funny, having conversations with people over the years, as I'm sure you can attest to, there's so many more jobs and industries and careers than I ever had any idea when I went to school.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame, and I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but there's so much pressure with kids, whether they're looking at going to college or doing something else. What are you supposed to, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? I'm like, you haven't even scratched the surface for what the real world and opportunities there are out there.
Right. We got to do better there. If you want to go on another tangent, we got to do better at offering the options.
Yeah.
Because kids are just, they're just not understanding what's available. So many folks, one of the first questions I ask anybody that's interested in a job, why funeral? Right. So why funeral?
Right.
I mean, you at 25 years old, why funeral? And there's always going to be some experience they've had, a connection they had, and they got tremendous value out of that they want to explore it and start giving back to people. So a lot of times it's personal experience.
Right.
But you're right.
Personal experience. They, I would imagine, lost a loved one and found comfort in that and wanted to probably provide that to the public.
Let me know a little bit more about this.
Yeah.
It's intriguing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go into kind of the client experience. I'm sure a lot that would watch this or listen to the episode have an experience, but if someone doesn't, someone passes and they call your office. What, from that first contact, what does kind of the timeline or what are those steps to plan the services?
Sure. Well, we're going to get just general information from the family first. The very first thing we do is to give them the assurance that we're going to be there and walk with them through the process, because majority of the people that call have never been through this before.
Okay.
Some have, obviously, but a lot of people don't even know where to start.
Right.
So if they hadn't planned ahead, which still a lot of people do that, they're just making that call for the first time going, basically, help.
Right.
What do we do?
Yeah.
So our folks would give them that guidepost of what we're going to do in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
which is gather information, take their loved one into our care, and then start getting a general idea of what they would like to do to remember, how they like to remember their loved one. So, be it a memorial service, a funeral, whatever the situation may be. And then from there, we'll meet with them, get all the necessary information, and then once again say, give us what you want from an informational standpoint, and then let us do it. Take that piece off of you.
Right.
So you all can deal directly with the emotional piece and remembering mom or dad. So that's part of the process, is just putting them at ease, number one.
Right.
And then us just going down our checklist to make sure everything's covered on their behalf.
And asking the questions that they don't even think to ask, right?
Sure.
Here's the things that you don't even know that you need, but we're going to provide X, Y, Z.
Absolutely, including communication, setting up things with ministers or celebrants, coordinating facilities, all of that. Just make that piece we take care of that piece while they don't have to bother with any of that.
How have you seen trends change over the years? I'm sure you've seen quite a few changes over the last couple decades.
Oh, sure.
What are some notable things that are different now or more common now that you didn't see before?
When I was younger, I noticed, if I can use the word tradition, because what is tradition anymore? But
Right.
Traditionally, people would have a day of visitation or even 2 days of visitation for family and community to gather.
Right.
Visit with the family, give them comfort, and then follow that with a service the next day.
Right.
And then have a burial.
Yeah.
So that was a traditional way of doing things for many, many, many years.
And that was 90+% of what
I'd
people
say
wanted?
at least.
Yeah.
See it more than that. Over the years, people have become more transient. Not everybody stays in the same town anymore.
Mm-hmm.
People have a little more emphasis on keeping things simple. I've heard the word easy. I've heard, I don't want to take my family through that. And the way I see things is you need to go through it somehow.
Right.
So it's a matter of how are you going to go through it? And that's a decision to make, and that's how we try to make a decision together. But I've seen the service is simplified.
Right.
Okay. Maybe a lot of times there's services are all in one day.
Yes.
Then visitation service and then burial. And then cremation has been on the rise too.
Okay.
And I attribute that a lot to folks getting away from tradition. But then also I go back to the transient piece. People used to have family plots, family cemetery. That's where we were all going to go. Well, now if you think about the people in your mind, where do all the kids live? I mean, they're everywhere.
Right.
And aunts and uncles. And it's a matter of I'm going to wait for a week so we can all get together so we can actually have something to remember.
Right.
The person in question. So that's the trend that I've seen change over the years.
So let's say 20 years ago, what was the percentage of people that would opt for burial versus cremation, and what does that look like now? Just ballpark.
If you go 20 years ago, I'd say it was roughly 80% burial versus a 20% cremation. Now, our firm is about 50-50.
Really?
Yeah, about 50 folks opting for the cremation and opting for the burial. Now, when I say cremation, I also mean a lot of folks are still having the visitation and service.
Right.
It's just the cremation is taking place afterwards.
Right.
Because I don't know where my family's going to be in 5 years.
Right.
And that's the big shift in the demographic piece.
I could see that.
Yeah, so that's still happening. But I'd say right now it's 50-50.
And what about for viewings? I would think the trends are shifting there for open casket viewing versus closed casket viewing.
Maybe not open versus closed, having viewing at all. And having the person present. So again, that goes back to a tradition. That goes back to the comforting aspect of having their loved one there. I hear people say a lot of times, well, I know mom's not really there. I know where she is.
Right.
I have a lot of religion in my background too, and I believe the same thing. But at the same time, that body, that's the body that I knew for the past 80 years.
Right.
So that's a piece that I think from a traditional standpoint still offers comfort.
Right.
To be able to come in and have that open casket. But to answer your question, it has definitely reduced over the years.
Yeah.
It definitely has.
So trends are shifting. In your experience, are there more non-traditional ways to celebrate the life of somebody that you've seen? Ancillary type services or experiences?
Right. At the end of the day, if I can use that term, that's overused, but at the end of the day, we want to create value in the experience when somebody is there to commemorate somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the value that I see continuing to rise are areas such as where you gather. I don't want to gather at an old house that used to be a funeral home or is a funeral home now. Somebody lives above it, and it just hasn't been updated. That's just not a place I'm going to gather. So we've done, we've taken great strides to create a modern, welcoming, a lot of light entryways people can come and gather, because again, we acknowledge that people live everywhere and they're maybe only here together for a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
So let's create a space where they can gather and be a part of together as they commemorate Mom.
Right.
So a couple ways to do that. As we know, a lot of folks are moving away from organized church, okay, and moving more towards. If you ask somebody today, are you religious? And you might get, well, maybe not religious. I think I'm more spiritual.
Spiritual.
Okay, spiritual. So in keeping with that, we have a celebrant program that that person would connect with the family and learn about their deceased, learn about their loved one, and then create a service all about the remembrance of that person. So they're at the center of that.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants some scripture, somebody wants some prayer, it can certainly be brought into that. But the center of that is remembering the person. So that's done through song, through testimonials, video, pictures, that type of thing. So That's one way of creating more value. The other is a lot of times people come to service or visitation, have to leave, go get a meal, come back for the visitation, have the service, and then go somewhere else to have reception. We've created space where people can just stay in one place.
Right.
So they can have an afternoon visitation, say, the family can stay there for a meal together, and that may be the only time they're together, time they're together, and then have the remaining visitation, as well as have a reception after the service.
Spend more time together rather than getting in the car to go drive to ABC restaurant and
Yeah, and again, that's creating the value piece. Now, with that being said, I mean, we have open bars at some of our visitations too. It's family preference, right? So we're open-minded to try to create that value as best we can.
Right.
Audio, video, what are we doing today, right?
Yeah.
It's all about that experience. So customer service, I say, has always been very paramount with what we do. But we're moving even more so towards customer experience. So customer experience, creating that experience to remember Mom, but do it in a way that you walk away from there going, that's what I would like for myself. So that's the goal.
So we were talking earlier about the importance of planning ahead. Mm-hmm. And how many people pre-plan services versus not in your estimation?
If I were to give you a percentage of, say, the percentage of folks we serve in a year,
right,
probably roughly 30% of those folks have done some type of pre-planning.
That's more than I would have thought.
It's diminishing though,
okay,
as you can understand, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people now are living, what's tomorrow? What's today going to bring?
Right. Yeah.
So, and I know you feel that in your industry too.
Yeah.
But the value in that pre-planning is, I tell the story. I made arrangements one day with two daughters. Their mom had died. One daughter lived out of state, and the other lived here in Harford County. Took care of Mom. And I get to a point where, like, how do you all want to remember Mom? What type of service would you like? The one daughter says, well, it's going to be Mass at St. Margaret, mm-hmm. and then we're going to have burial up at the Bel Air Memorial Gardens. And the other daughter said, oh, no. Mom said it's just going to be a cremation to keep things simple, and then we'll go to dinner afterwards.
Right.
Well, how do you think that day is going to end?
Right.
It's not going to end well because somebody is just not going to think that they're doing what mom wanted done.
And hold a grudge, probably.
Or however, who knows? So I just use that and as simple of an illustration that is, it's so real.
Right.
So the main thing is I'm putting down my wishes, or my family's putting down my wishes while I'm still here. So at least the desires are there.
So there's no guessing what I wanted. It's all right here.
Well, you were there with mom, weren't you, when
Right.
we did this? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So how does that work when, let's say, and I don't know that there's an age when you start to think about it. I think at any point you should. But let's say we're watching this, we're like, I'm finally going to get things set up. What does that process look like to pre-plan our own services?
Well, if I may, our own services or for our loved ones, right?
Right.
So when you say what age does this affect us, I'm 58. My dad's 81. Okay, so I'd venture to say, late 40s, 50s, you are entering into this because maybe your parents are doing it for themselves, or maybe you're helping do it for your parents. So from an age standpoint, it could start as early, as 40s and 50s.
Right.
But again, that's an information gathering piece.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gathering all the information we're going to need for obituary, for death, all the legal documentation. We're getting that already. So we have that in place. So that's done.
Right.
Now it's your desires, your wishes, visitation, service, burial, cremation, that type of thing. And where are burial spaces? You'd be surprised. I meet with some folks, and the kids, they don't even know. Now what do we do?
Right.
So getting that informational piece down.
Yeah.
And then finally, the financing part of it. We have the opportunity through insurance mechanism to actually take prepayment for services today in 2025, and we'll guarantee the cost for those services no matter when you pass away, no matter when you die. Not many places you can do that with any types of businesses, but we're able to do that. Okay. So locking it in this day and time, all we hear is about inflation, right?
Right.
Eggs have come down a little bit, though.
A little bit.
Yeah, but it's right in everybody's face.
Right.
So that piece means so much more nowadays because we've seen the inflationary piece go up so quickly.
And for what I've seen from my clients, they want to ease the burden, right? And I see this transition for folks as they go into retirement. It's the me phase, and they're in the go phase.
Yes.
We're going to do all the travel that we didn't get to do while we were working and raising families, and whatever's left over is what's left over. We're going to try to spend every penny. Our last check will bounce. Mm-hmm. Something happens when folks get into the 70s, mid-70s, it shifts more towards legacy. And I've done the trips. I don't feel like going through another airport. I like the vacations with family, having the grandkids run around. And then I just want to, I start to see now a shift in that age group where I want to see my kids enjoy the inheritance while I'm alive to see them enjoy it.
Yeah, sure.
And kind of with that comes, and I don't want to be a burden. I don't want them to worry about stuff. I know hopefully people will miss me when I'm gone, but I don't want, little Johnny, little Susie arguing about burial versus cremation. Let's get this stuff done, pay for it, lock in the price. Mm-hmm. What is the average age, would you say, the pre-planned services? When do people come in to do that?
Our average age right now is about 78.
What's the youngest that you can remember?
40s. Yeah.
40s?
Just planners.
Yeah.
Planner. Two schools of thought. Are you have you pre-planned your funeral?
Right.
Well, it's in my will.
Yeah.
That's not a good answer.
Right.
We know that because the will's read typically after the services.
Right.
Another school of thought. You know what? I won't be around here anyway. Just
That's their
let the
problem.
kids figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just talked about the two daughters.
Right.
Okay. And then finally, who you're talking about is, thoughtful people that really want to create. They're working on creating their legacy in life. Mm-hmm. But then how do I want to be remembered after I'm gone?
Right.
And give some guidance to their family. So there's, I guess, different schools of thought.
Little off topic, but kind of on. What are some of the more unique requests you have seen with someone planning their services?
You've always heard, I want to show up to my funeral late.
Yeah.
I have one woman in the community. Every time I see her at a visitation, she points at me and says, "You remember, I want to be late. I want to be late to my funeral."
Okay.
And I always tell her, I said, "Mrs. Smith, absolutely.
Right.
But I need something in writing from you
Yeah.
because I'm going to make copies for everybody that attends with your signature."
Because you won't be here to back me up.
You'll be able to back me up.
They're just going to think something's wrong.
Oh God! So that's probably one of the biggest ones. It's reoccurring too because every time I see her,
Yeah.
she mentions it to me. Yeah.
I have no issues. I've experienced some unexpected loss throughout my life, so it's a club that nobody really wants to be a part of, but we all will be at some point.
Sure.
So hopefully that is a good preface for what I'm about to say. I joke with my wife that I want everybody dressed head to toe in black. Everybody needs to be sad, and I want to hire actors that come in and cry at the top of their lungs like they're so sad that I'm gone.
Love it.
And she's like, that's because I'm usually not like that kind of person,
Right.
but she's like, really? Because most people want like a happy, uplifting. Remember, I'm like, no. When I'm not here, you can never get married again. You gotta wear black forever. And she's like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, I know. I'm just being silly.
Just testing you.
Yeah, but have you had any videos that people have recorded to be played at the services afterwards?
So interesting you say that. We are actually just starting a program. It's called our Legacy Video Program that we're going to offer just that. So folks give the option. It can be a message to your family.
Right.
Or it can be a message that you can offer to everybody there that day.
Yeah.
With AI, things are going to get even more interesting.
Oh, my. I can only imagine.
Well, they've already started memorial services where that person is present, taking snippets of them throughout life, and they're actually there talking to everybody, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
We don't plan to go that route because I like things to be authentic,
right.
obviously. But that's going to be another value-added piece that for those right people that would like to do that.
Right.
I had my grandfather do that, actually, and we put this video into a video tribute because we do that for everybody that we gather pictures and videos and then we play that. But it was a message to everybody, and he was first generation from Czechoslovakia. So,
oh wow,
what a powerful message that was. So, we're again value, right? Creating that value and experience for folks.
Yeah.
So,
what I'm sure you have music that would like to be played, but what? I guess it's difficult. Obviously, confidentiality is important, but without getting too specific, and not having a hologram of somebody there greeting everybody, what are some of the other interesting requests that you've seen?
Music is huge, right? Anytime, one of our questions with a visitation with family is creating that room to best represent mom, dad, whoever it may be.
Right.
And music's a huge part of it. So that whatever, if they had favorite genre of music, we're going to play that. I'll never forget, we had a great Baptist pastor that we worked with here in the county for many years. And the family had a request. They wanted to play Stairway to Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I remember the pastor saying, that sounds like a real nice song.
Yeah.
Let's do that. I said, okay. I said, all right, we'll do that.
Right.
Well, I stood in the back of the room while that played. And, of course, it starts out just nice as can be.
Right.
But then it went into it, and priceless, let's just say.
The reactions.
Every reaction. So you just never know.
How difficult is it? You grew up in the business, but you're seeing people at some of the lower points, throughout their life. How do you compartmentalize that and be able to, I'm sure, switch, from sad and grieving to some of the funnier memories that they might be sharing when they were crying 2 seconds earlier about how much they missed so-and-so?
Yeah.
How do you handle the emotional aspect of the job?
In the beginning, you're working to handle the emotional piece from the family. So we have a rule. We don't open a laptop. We don't touch a pen for at least 15, 20 minutes. We learn about that person. And normally in that time, you'll make a connection. Mm-hmm. And normally at that time, you may get some laughter too. So
right.
I think it's all how you start off the process.
Right.
If you're referring more towards us in-house, how we deal with it, it's a balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the business, get things done on one side, but you got the ministry side on the other. And where's that line going to be each day?
Right.
Well, if it gets too far either way, you can't continue.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you will not get from our folks it moved too far to the business side. They're just not the wiring.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes too far to the ministry side, and that'll wear you out. I think with each family you work with, I think it takes a little piece out of you in this business.
Right.
You work with a tragic death, I think it takes a larger piece out of you.
Yeah.
And the only way to get through that, the only way is the support we have internally with each other.
Right.
The team approach. We're big on team, and that's supporting one another. We've got, in each one of our facilities, we've got, a solid door back to we call it the bullpen, where people can just collect. Very different behind that door than it is in front of that door.
Sure.
But you have to strike that balance, though.
Yeah.
Right? And you have to be there.
Right.
So we've got some good times together. I mean, you have to. It's the
Yeah.
only way you can sustain.
I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. And Joe, I'll mention to you, it's a tough time to work through the process. But I can tell you where everybody gets theirs, I know I keep referring to it, gets theirs, gets your value, is when things are over and it was a hard time and the family looks to you and says, thank you. They grab your hand. Girls are hugging all the time. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, I think that's where that box is checked, and that allows us
Right.
to keep moving.
Yeah.
It just, because sometimes the harder it is, the more rewarding it is on the other end.
Right.
Yeah.
Kind of go into battle and you come out and accomplish the mission, and that's nice that there's appreciation for it. That keeps you going, right?
It really does. Yep.
You have to have that, otherwise. Oof.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
So I got the idea for having you on from an industry connection who multi-generation, he says undertaker, so I don't know what the accepted term is, but that's what he kept saying.
You could go with undertaker, but it's funeral director, funeral professional.
Funeral professional, yeah. Undertaker seems old, but that's what he said. So he gave me a couple of questions. Some of them are probably a little silly, but I'm going to ask them, and if they're not very good, I'll just blame John, the undertaker.
You do that.
All right. What is, have you ever had to play referee between, we mentioned a little bit with the daughters that maybe disagreed. How much is being a referee in some of those initial conversations?
Huge.
Yeah.
It's not getting any better.
Do they teach mediation at, at school for what you do?
I'm not going to use any profanity, but no, they don't.
Yeah.
You can imagine coming together, grief, already have whatever it is, that dynamic in the family going on.
Right.
You're throwing grief into it. You're throwing reading of the will, who gets what. Just so many dynamics that go into something like that. And then maybe mental wellness too.
Right.
So absolutely the answer is yes. It is. And that you got to watch that too. Because you're talking about family, right?
Right.
So family's always thicker than everything else, even though you're trying to calm things down. Yeah. So yes, absolutely.
John gave me this question. How do you know they've actually passed?
So back in the day, they used to put a mirror right in front of the nose.
Okay.
And then if you saw a little condensation, you knew they were still living.
Oh, my goodness.
Now, it's going back probably to the 40s and 50s. We don't do that anymore.
So that was only like generation 4 maybe, or 5.
Yeah, maybe 4, yeah. Yeah, that's back when they, back in the day. Nowadays, it's pretty much you're going to get a death certificate and you're going to have an understanding there that things are okay.
Yeah. That's more the medical facility where they're coming from. They're the ones that are supposed to.
It is.
What is one of the funnier Undertaker jokes that you've heard? Or, there's the cliche lawyer jokes, shark or whatever the thing is. Is there a line of jokes or one that stands out to you about your line of business?
You're going to have to cut this. I hate it. I got nothing.
No?
No, I've got, and I like jokes. I've got nothing.
All right, we'll have to work on that one.
I don't have a joke for you. I hate it.
Feel like
back when I was in college, I used to tell jokes all the time.
Yeah.
My brain shit. I need to get back to joke telling days, but no.
Is there like a buy one get one half off discount or anything? Is there like group pricing?
Today only, yeah, right?
Today only, sign today.
Yeah, sign today.
That's probably not a good sign if, the discount funeral home.
It's not.
You should just be competitive from the start. That's not the time you want to negotiate pricing.
I got more questions for that place.
Right. We missed Dad. Oh, and by the way, here's this coupon we found on the back of my, ShopRite receipt.
Exactly.
So we've mentioned before, family owned. What does that allow you to do versus some of the more corporate, or if there's even publicly traded or big corporate groups? How does that benefit your clients in this business being privately owned?
I said it before, one word, relationships.
Yeah.
So the generational piece allows me to work with people that knew my dad or knew my grandfather, and to provide that service. But we're coming back together. We're not coming together for the first time.
Right.
That piece is lost, I think, in the corporate world.
Right.
There is a corporate funeral home that's owned here in Bel Air, and we knew the family that had that funeral home way back when. Great family. It's obviously a different mentality. I'm answering to a different boss, so to speak.
Right.
Okay, so we can be on the premises. We can be there to pivot, to move, to serve, to accommodate. I don't have to make a phone call to anywhere else to get approval to do different things.
Mm-hmm.
I think my intentions are a little more sincere, if I may say that too.
Right.
Because, again, that relationship we've established over the years, it's here. It starts and stops here.
Right.
And I know that.
Yeah.
But I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Very few industries nowadays, unfortunately, have allowed a family to continue on a legacy within their business. The funeral area, nationwide, there's still 75% of funeral homes are still owned by families.
Interesting.
So that tells you something that model does work. And I think, Joe, it goes back to relationships. I really do.
Yeah. Now you have in Jarrettsville created more of a, for lack of a better term, an event space.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit and
Sure.
the vision for it and how people are using it? I think it's different and unique, I would imagine, in the space.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's a celebration of life center. So in saying that, we're expanding the use of that facility. Like I said, a lot of windows, video, a lot of it's a gathering space, a cafe feel.
okay.
So with that being said, the first thing we had there was a wedding reception. So again, we're celebrating life.
Right.
So whether it's a retirement, whether it's a baby shower, whether it's a memorial service, a celebration of life center, a funeral, I mean, all of this can come together and have it in one space.
There might be something there, McComas there for you through every of life celebrations.
Sure.
I don't know.
I like that. I like that.
There's an idea. It's a seed. We'll see if it grows.
When we first had an open house there, it was interesting. Somebody walked in and said, I could never see coming here for a funeral and then turning around and having my daughter's wedding here. And I thought a second and just said, have you ever been to a church?
Yeah.
Because they do it every day.
That's a great point.
So just it's a matter of us allowing ourselves to come together. And remember, these are celebrations of life, right?
Right.
Whether it is...
Unless you're at mine, then everyone's going to be sad and depressed the whole time.
Exactly. All black. You got to make some notes about that.
I need to commend.
Yeah.
I'm turning 40. It's time. I got to start planning it, and I'll have all kinds of crazy songs.
Everybody starts pre-planning at 40. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
That's what you get when you're a financial planner.
Yep.
So for a lot of clients watch these videos. If this is something that's been on the to-do list but never quite goes to the top, what would you suggest they do if this is something that they're hopefully getting some motivation and let me go ahead and handle this?
Certainly online, right? We have a very active website. People can ask questions on there through a Contact Us form. They can start pre-planning online also. And I know that's the way a lot of folks like to start a process nowadays.
Right.
I do too.
Yeah.
That's one. Two, just call and have conversation. I mean, we've got again, the quality of folks that can have a conversation with you and answer your questions within minutes is just it's so invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say very basically, those are two ways you can start making that happen.
How easy is it to change or modify existing plans if things change 5 years down the road?
Yeah, not an issue at all.
Not an issue at all.
No.
And I think there's a hesitancy with people that everyone has more permanency on decisions than the reality truly is. For example, beneficiary designations, retirement accounts and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
People put a lot of pressure on it. I say, if things change, it's just one signature. Just let us know and we can change it. I did have one client who took me up on that, and I think she was not invited to Thanksgiving dinner at a certain, so then their 13% was reduced to 7%. They'd have no idea.
Uh-huh.
But so that's an extreme example. Not everybody's changing it, when the wind blows a different direction.
Sure.
But you could.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's not a set it and forget it, although most people do because they don't want to go back to it, right?
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. Everything can.
And why don't people plan this ahead of time?
It's a sense, again, dynamic of, well, as soon as I plan my services, something's going to happen to me.
Yeah.
Right? The old adage of that, in which we can believe how you want to believe.
Right.
Or peace of mind, use that word, peace of mind, that is done, and I have my intentions are down.
Right.
And you all don't have to worry about it. Just worry about feeling bad that I'm not here.
Right.
Yeah. Focus on that piece.
It's not planning your funeral will not speed up your funeral, right? And we see that with life insurance. Younger families
Sure.
and, kids, mortgage, depend on an income. There's a very strong case for insurance. Sometimes people get hung up on, I guess, the mortality, but it is what it is.
Listen, when's a good time to plan your funeral?
Right.
Is it today?
Yeah.
Probably not. I'd rather go for a cup of coffee and get a workout.
Right.
But I have seen folks walk out of that process and they're exhaling. It's done. I finally did it. Howard, I've been meaning to do this forever. And again, there's folks that walk in the door, like the lady wants to be late for her funeral.
Right.
Like, you need to sit down.
Right.
Make some notes.
That's it. It's easy.
It's just a matter of just getting it done. Yeah.
Awesome.
And it helps you can come in and have just a conversation with just a normal person and talk your way through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Howard, thank you so much for coming in here and sharing these valuable insights. If somebody's watched this and they're like, I'm going to plan, how do they get in touch with you and start the process of planning their services?
Sure. Joe, thank you for having me. I appreciate that. Always glad to have the conversation. It's easy. You can call any one of our offices. We're in Jarrettsville, Bel Air, and Abingdon. Our website, McComasfuneralhome.com, has just a wealth of information on it too. So it allows folks to interact. Facebook, a lot of times on Facebook, you'll just see what's happening with our folks. Again, normal people doing normal things during the day. So that's a great way to communicate too.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your insights.
Wish you the best. Thank you.